what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, we are here to talk about a Brian DePalma film on 4K. And look, 4K has been very kind to the Brian DePalma filmography. We've gotten a lot of good ones over the past couple of years. But today we have a film from 1998 starring Nicolas Cage that was put out by Kino Lorber. We've got Snake Eyes on 4K to talk about, guys. And yeah, I wanted to do I showed this off in a collection update, I think a week or so ago, but I wanted to do a deep dive into Snake Eyes on 4K. I think it deserves that. And I don't get to talk about Brian DePalma enough. Like, Body Double came out on 4K this year. I didn't even do a review of Body Double, but it looked fantastic on 4K. But I wanted to talk about this release right here from Kino Lorber because I feel like this is a movie. I watched this for the first time actually a year and a half ago, and I wasn't like super impressed about it. So this is kind of an example of me like revisiting a film. Did my thoughts change on the movie? Am I more impressed by this film now than I was back then? I want to get into that. This is a movie that when it came out, like, I just didn't like, I don't know, I just wasn't interested in it. And I don't know if it's because I was 13 and the plot just didn't look interesting to me, but I never watched this one. It wasn't until like a year and a half ago that I checked this one out for the first time. So basically this is set at a boxing event, and you have Nicolas Cage, who's like a kind of playing like a corrupt police officer. And he's at this boxing event. He's wheeling and dealing, trying to make bets. He's running around acting like he owns the place, like he's there like every night or something, like a regular. Then you got Gary Sinise in this movie, who's excellent, like usually in everything. Like I don't know what happened to Gary Sinise. Like he's still with us, right? Like I don't feel like I've seen like a good like Gary Sinise movie in quite some time. I don't know if he went to home video or like what happened to Gary Sinise, but like he's usually great and everything, and he's great in this movie as well. But he's playing kind of he's playing a Navy commander who's kind of on security detail for the night at this boxing event because the Secretary of Defense wants to watch the fight. So he's coming to the boxing event. So it's this big like security thing. So they're at the boxing event and you have the fight going on. There's a hurricane going on outside as well, which just adds like an extra like distraction in the movie. And basically, there's an assassination attempt on the Secretary of Defense. He actually gets shot. Now, whether or not he dies or not, I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to spoil that. Okay, I'm going to try to spoil very little with this review. But after that, it pretty much evolves into this like conspiracy type of storyline. And, you know, you kind of, again, I don't want to get into like what actually happens, but like there's a conspiracy. There's mysterious characters, like who shot him. Like you have to figure that kind of stuff. Who was involved? Like it's quickly revealed that it's deeper than just somebody, you know, randomly deciding to assassinate the Secretary of Defense. Like there's a missile launch defense like program like involved and it goes deep into like political thriller territory. And it's all taking place within this arena. So it's kind of similar to Sudden Death because you had that hockey game going on. The only difference is that nobody at the hockey game in Sudden Death knew there was anything going on, whereas everybody at the boxing match, like they know something's going on because the Secretary of Defense just got shot right in front of them in the crowd. You got Carla Gugino. She's kind of playing like a mysterious character. You don't really know her motivations, like what she's there to do. You find out as the movie goes along. So there's just all these characters that are introduced and everybody, you know, you're not sure like who's involved, like who's the person behind the assassination because there are like main characters that are involved here. And you got Nicolas Cage, you know, like I said, playing that corrupt cop character, but all of a sudden he's turning into the hero. So it kind of doesn't make sense from that perspective if he's like this crooked cop to become like a hero so quickly, and he's just trying to find out like what's going on, which again makes no sense that anybody in this place, like all the government agents and stuff, like they would allow him to like almost take over this investigation seemingly is what he does in the movie. So that kind of feels off. So the movie, look, it's really kind of a generic political thriller, and there's parts of the plot that just don't make total sense, and it almost feels a little incoherent at times. Nicolas Cage is full Cage in this movie, and at this time in his career, guys, that's what Nicolas Cage did. Like even in great action movies like The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, especially Face Off, he's full Cage. Like he's dialed up to 11. He's given like super flamboyant, like outlandish performance in this movie, especially in the beginning where he like stands up in the crowd is like, and I'm the king.
Because I was made for this sewer, baby, and I am the king!
He is just full cage, like all throughout the film, which is always like, it's just a pleasure to watch. Even if it's like nonsensical and kind of goofy, like it's always fun to watch Nicolas Cage like doing Nicolas Cage things. Now the movie is directed by Brian De Palma, but it's actually co-written by Brian De Palma and David Koepp, who I just talked about. He wrote and directed Stir of Echoes, which I think David Koepp, like he's had, you know, he's been a good writer in the past. He wrote Jurassic Park, but I feel like some of his plots like this get a little bit too like wrapped up in themselves. I feel like if you're watching this movie as a thriller, it's almost a failure in that respect. But like rewatching it this time, I got way more into the Brian De Palma isms of it all. Like I really noticed some stuff about this movie that I did not notice the first time. First off, like the whole like shifting perspectives and like replaying the same like stuff over and over again. Like they replay the assassination attempt several times and they give you like different angles and viewpoints and vantage points, and like depending on like who's telling their point of view and perspective, like you get these different perspectives and you get these unreliable narrators at some points in time. Like you can't completely trust that what you're seeing on screen is the truth because of who's telling the story of what happened. So that's very interesting, and some of the ways that those scenes are shot is just very unique. I feel like, and almost like certain like parts of this movie, like feel like video game cutscenes, like in a good way. Like there's some first person stuff that's going on that kind of feels like a video game, that honestly like certain things like almost feel like they were shot like with the video game GoldenEye in mind. Like it just gave me those vibes, the way that they were shot. So there's these like first person like video gamey like sequences. There's also like this thing where this news reporter, like she's broadcasting outside during a hurricane, and then you like zoom in to like this big like sphere that's fallen off the building, and that whole like sequence just felt like straight out of a video game cutscene. So there's like very like creative like direction stylistically and some of the things that De Palma does. But you have like the Hitchcockian, like, you know, direction style and angles that De Palma's kind of known for. And like the music and the score and just the way that's incorporated in with the direction. When I was watching it this time, like stylistically, I was like, I just see and feel De Palma all over this movie. And I'm a huge De Palma fan. I've seen a good portion of his filmography at this point. This to me is really Brian De Palma just throwing himself into this movie and just bringing all of his style and the substance and what he's capable of as a director. So I don't know, I came away from this movie this time, and some of like the scenes and the way that they're shot and the colors that are used, like it's very De Palma. It's very like almost like, you know, abstract in certain sequences, like what you're seeing. And I think that goes back to like the unreliable narrator and some of those shifting perspectives. But like it's kind of like what you're seeing is not really reality. It's like a hyper sense of like what reality actually is. And maybe that goes into just the plot itself. The fact that Nicolas Cage, it makes no sense for him to like taken over this investigation of this assassination attempt on a government official. It makes no sense that a local like authority would take over this investigation. It makes no sense. So maybe like that goes into the plot itself. But I don't know, like I came away from the movie this time, like the script's kind of a mess. The performances are very outlandish and kind of goofy. And I understand if you watch this film and you don't think it's very good, like I get that completely. But I came away from this movie this time, like really appreciating just the style of Brian De Palma and just the fact that he brought everything that he's capable of and has done in his career up until this point to this film. And it really does feel like kind of, I don't know, guys. I feel like it felt like almost like the ultimate Brian De Palma directed movie. Yeah, I just, I don't know. I really kind of dug this movie on the second watch, but not for the reasons why I feel like other people might dig it and other people might not like it as well. I don't feel like it was for the reasons that everybody else felt like they were supposed to dig this movie. I feel like I dug it for completely different reasons, if that makes any sense at all. Now let's get into the actual 4K, because I spent a lot of time talking about the movies themselves. Look, guys, in 2025, I'm going to continue to talk about physical media, but I love diving into the actual films themselves and giving my thoughts and my perspective on them. And I think in a lot of ways that helps inform your all's decision if you haven't seen the movie on whether or not you should pick it up. Diving into the 4K of this movie, guys. This is a native 4K. It's got Dolby Vision. It's got HDR. It's on a 100 gigabyte disc, so Kino Lorber kind of utilized the highest disc capacity for this 4K, allowing it the most like room to kind of breathe and just look as good as it possibly could. And the megabytes per second, guys, I like to keep my eye on that when I'm watching the movie. It was hovering. It was about the high 70s to the low 80s megabytes per second. So it was running at a pretty good bit rate throughout. And I just thought this was a super like clean, crisp 4K restoration. I do think that stadium setting really lent itself to just a nice quality 4K presentation that just, looked fantastic. Like I said, direction-wise, stylistically, like this is a really interesting and unique film from Brian DePalma. And I feel like that 4K just really showed that, for sure. And like right from the beginning, like you see Nicolas Cage, like even the beginning of this film was like old school, like TVs. So you're seeing it like on these TVs, like news reporting broadcasts and stuff. It's really creative what they do with the TVs and stuff, like throughout how they cut back and forth between like the news anchor, like footage and the people that are talking on the TVs about the political assassinations, zooming in on the TVs. Like there's just a lot of stuff that stylistically Brian De Palma just brings to this movie. But all that stuff looks great too. Like even the TV stuff, the stuff that's shot on TV, like that looks great in 4K. It doesn't look like super blurry and like a VHS or anything like that. I think the TV stuff looks fantastic still. In 4K, and you can notice an improvement there. Right from the beginning, you see Nicolas Cage. He's got that yellow shirt with the brown jacket, and you can just make out every single detail, and that HDR is really just intensifying those colors. So overall, great picture quality here with this 4K. Is it like a massive improvement over the Blu-ray? I mean, yes and no. Again, it really just goes back to like, how invested are you in Snake Eyes to want that upgrade? And also like, if you don't have the movie, then yeah, I'd say to get this movie on 4K. But yeah, guys, overall, just great presentation on this 4K. I thought it looked awesome. Now getting into the sound, you have the DTS HD Master Audio 5.1. No upgrade from the Blu-ray. It's the same audio. I think you could have maybe done a Dolby Atmos, but Kino Lorber doesn't really do that. I don't think they've done one Dolby Atmos mix, and I think there's other films that people would want that for before they would want it for Snake Eyes. But I do think a Dolby Atmos, would have been a cool like addition to this release, because I think there are some moments like sound-wise that could have been really enhanced. But 5.1 sounds great as well. I'm listening to this on a soundbar with a subwoofer that kind of simulates that 5.1. I thought everything sounded great. It's got a really great score in this movie as well. But sound-wise, I thought everything was good. You could hear everything nice. It was a nice full-bodied sounds, I guess. But getting into the packaging, guys, you got the slipcover right there, which is really clean and just looks really nice. I've talked about Kino Lorber slips before, but there's something about them. They just feel more durable than like the normal like slips, I feel like. Right there on the back, guys, you got some images from the film. You got the synopsis. Down there, guys, let's get into this real quick. Special features wise, like this is another thing, and I think this might inform some of your all's decision, especially if you have that Blu-ray release. There's really nothing new. There's a new audio commentary, which is nice because this movie has never really had any special features at all. Like on the Blu-ray, it hasn't had anything. So this has a new audio commentary with film historian Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson. So yeah, you actually have some people talking about this film on an actual like home video release, which you've never had before. So in that respect, it's nice that they at least included that. But as far as like new interviews and things like that, it's kind of disappointing how like they didn't put anything on this. Like you just got trailers. Like that's the only special feature, trailers for other Kino Lorber releases. So I think that might be a big difference maker for a lot of people. The fact that this, is pretty much just a picture quality upgrade. And it's going to be questionable for some people, like how big of a picture quality upgrade that is. Because like I said, the Blu-ray does look very good. But overall, guys, look, I think that I found this to be a much more interesting movie than the first time I watched it. I do like the film. It's kind of a hard recommendation because I don't think it's like a traditionally like great movie or not. I do maybe recommend you watch it on streaming. But if you're going to buy this, like if you want to buy this like on physical media, I think this 4K is a great 4K. I think it looks excellent. So I don't think you can go wrong with this as far as like 4K presentation wise. I think it's great. But as for a like complete recommendation, I can't completely give my endorsement for this. Here's what I tell you guys to do. You know, this is $26 right now. Maybe wait for the Kino sale in March or April, because I can almost guarantee this is going to be on there for $18.99. Maybe wait till it's a little bit cheaper. Or if you just want to get the Blu-ray with the 4K scan, that'll probably be $12 in the Kino Lorber sale. So maybe wait for the sale to get this one. But if you do love the movie and you want that like definitive picture quality for this film, it's a great 4K. You really can't go wrong. So thank y'all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and we'll see you next time.